Which is better from the two 2025 Maserati Grecales? We have the Modena in Nero Black over Rosa, and Rosa. It's going to be the same color for the Folgore. Now, horsepower and torque, both is going to be night and day difference because it should be compared against the Trofeo. The reason why I'm going for the Modena is because it's only a second difference in a 0 to 60. This is 12 miles per hour faster than the top speed of 137 mile per hour full EV Maserati. I'm Anthony from Hawkeye Rides, and I'm going to touch bases on some pros and cons compared to the competition as well, starting with the Modena. The front fascia gets the MC20 twist. We have every feature more or less that you can get on the Modena, which almost puts an MSRP at 6 figures. Full LED headlights and daytime runnings, 8 inches of clearance. The Folgore gives you standard air suspension. Fascia for the Modena with the vertical bars that integrate into the Maserati badging that comes out. It looks aggressive. That's why you tick the box for the Modena. The GT, it's going to be a little bit less in performance. Underneath the hood is going to share the same engine. The 2-liter turbo L4 mild hybrid engine. That's producing 325 horsepower and the same torque as the GT with 332 pound-feet paired to a ZF 8-speed automatic transmission, achieving 22 mpgs for the city, 28 mpgs for the highway. Now the Trofeo swaps out the engine, giving us a V6, giving us 523 horsepower, dropping the 0 to 60 to 3.6 seconds with the top speed nearly 180 miles per hour. We got upgraded wheels. This is 21-inch Trident-inspired alloy wheels with the triple side air vents. That was a design all the way back to 1947. And the Folgore carries with the triple side air vents, but they add the LED lighting and the badging on the side that's going to swap out the Modena plate. 21-inch wheels, and unfortunately there is no frunk, but when you remove that cover, you can see that 542 horsepower and 605 pound-feet of torque battery. Single speed automatic transmission, charging time from 20 to 80%. Maserati is quoting 29 minutes, reaching 60 at 4 seconds, top speed at 137 miles per hour. Now, when you're competing against other EVs in its class, this is around 110 MSRP. We do have some features that's added to this. Porsche, the Macan, you can go all the way to the top spec, which they have 4 different trims. When you go for Maserati, only 1 trim to choose from, not like the gas variant Grecale, where you have 3 different options, in which the Porsche is going to be the fastest, then Mercedes, then BMW, and now we're even getting a Cadillac Lyric V, which we will be bringing to the channel as soon as they come out for 2026 variants. That may be even more faster than this. So I feel like they didn't give it full performance like the competition. Whereas with the Modena, we've added features as well. That's why the MSRP is so high. So it actually puts you in a near base Trofeo, which both two of those is only about $1,000 difference. But the Trofeo is faster, a gas variant. Top speed is going to be a lot more so. And here we have the travel pack, which adds the roof rails and the home plug for the cargo. Going against competition for the Grecale gas variant, it's also not going to be the best performance in class, and it's going to be more expensive than everybody in its class. But don't let that deter you from buying one, because if you go Trofeo, it really unlocks the best of both worlds, because it's a near 50-50 weight distribution. You have awesome performance. When you go into the Modena, it's kind of the sweet spot. I don't necessarily recommend the GT unless you get a great deal, because once you start tacking on features, Maserati can get expensive relatively quick. L-shaped LED taillights that wrap around and integrate into the chromed out Maserati badging. Quad exhaust tips, they're blacked out with the diffuser, towing over 5,000 pounds. Now, if you're considering going into the Levante, you're going to have a lot more power, obviously. But this is going to have more interior space the way they have carved everything out. As for the Folgore, you're going to have the LED taillights, and the Maserati logo doesn't get the gloss black. It has its own unique color because it's a full EV with 311 mile range, Charging level 2 at home, 62 miles per hour. So it's going to take basically when you sleep and wake up, like plugging a cell phone, it'll be fully charged, more or less ready to go for the next day. But going back to the question, which is going to be better? I would go to the Modena, but at this price, I would entertain the Trofeo for another 10 grand. Try to work a deal because you're getting more performance than the Folgore. But if I was looking for a full electric SUV, the Folgore definitely ticks the box with quick 0 to 60s, not bad top speeds, and it's right on par with all the competition in charging. Power liftgate going into 18.9 cubic feet of storage. You can option a home plug. That'll be here. You have these areas here that you can hold for bottles. This kind of bulges outwards a little bit more so than the standard gas variant. LED interior lights, bag holders, 12-volt charger, and to split fold the rear bench, you do so in the back at a 60-40 split. That maxes cargo to 56 cubic feet. Underneath the floor, you have a little bit of storage. This is a full electric Maserati, so we cannot go inside to start it up to hear the exhaust note. But we need to go inside, start it up to hear if this is a real Maserati exhaust note. The key fob to the Modena, it's the same in all trims. 14-way power seat adjustment, heated, ventilated, leather-wrapped seats. The Trident badging comes into the headrest. Sport bucket seats, it's perforated. Manual cushion extensions, memory for the driver. The interior is going to be more tech-driven. That's what they have went for the Grecale. Let's fire it up. The dashboard starts off with the perforated inlays that go underneath the air vents. So it has a two-tier design layout, heads-up display because we have the technology, a digital clock, which was a big deal for Maserati. On this 8.8 inch down here, you click onto it, you could change the clock to the compass, to the pedals, to the G meter. Folgore, you also can change it to the battery in your range, which is definitely a key point that you need for this type of vehicle. And whenever you're using the wireless charging pad, you can see it there also. The top screen is at 12.3 MIA or Maserati Intelligent Assistance with Apple CarPlay, Android Auto, Sirius XM, AM, FM, streaming Bluetooth audio. Put it into reverse on the Folgore. We have a 360-degree reverse camera, full trajectory for the front and the rear, and you have different camera positions. But in the Modena, just a reverse camera, you get for the front and the rear. It doesn't even cover up the whole screen, and you don't get any camera positions. Only one way to configure that for this. Gloss black opens up to a storage pocket with USB ports. Because we have where you put the car in gear here, it gives us a little bit more cargo space, but I only use this usually for like the key fob or my wallet. Cup holders are good size for the size of this vehicle. It's a little bit sporty. It opens up to a 12-volt charger, and it's pretty deep storage pocket. Maserati logos here, but there isn't any pass-through, and it's somewhat of a driver-focused setup, but it doesn't really disqualify the passenger. In the Folgore, you're gonna have that carbon fiber with this orange work. Both trims will have a leather wrap steering wheel that's 3-spoke. You get the Maserati Trident badging here, flat bottom, perforated on the side, so it's more performance. Gloss black, it's going to have the same look to it in all trims. Push button start, this is out of the Alfa Romeo parts bin, and driving modes, which on the 12.3 gauge cluster, you have a total of 4 driving modes. So you have off-road, max range, GT, and of course our favorite, Sport. Whereas the Modena will have Comfort, GT, and Sport mode, and you'll unlock Corsa when you go into the Trofeo. On that gauge cluster, you can go through an array of different content for the driver. You can also change out the layout or the cluster design. So I have it in Relax, you can have it as Classic, and you can also change that. It's just a little bit slower for my liking, which is a con to me at this price point, but you do have customization throughout. The ambient lighting, when you put it on sport mode, will change the color in the interior of the car. Auto dimming rear view mirror, a large panel moonroof, LED interior light with upgraded sonofiber speakers. The gloss black comes into play that integrates more or less into the door pocket for the Modena. with the stitch work, gloss black covering, the one touch up and down for the windows, and look at this. Even the SF lights up with the same size storage pocket in both, but you'll have that carbon fiber in the Folgore, and the leg space is going to be the same, as well as headroom. For the back seat of the Modena, you can fit 3 or fold this down and you'll have your cup holders and armrests. We have the climate control, heated rear seats because of the climate package. We have storage behind both of the front seats. The door does not receive any manual sunshades, no soft closed doors. You get the stitch work. It's going to be a little bit more sporty. The gloss black covering up the one touch up and down for the windows and a smaller storage pocket. Leg space is not going to be a problem with the Grecale, and the same thing with headroom. So I like how they carved that out because this is a smaller SUV and yet you got a ton of space. I mean, check out the leg and knee space here in the center as well as feet, butt, leg, and shoulder space, making the Grecale feel a lot bigger than the Levante. And even the Folgore is going to have the same leg space, headroom throughout the interior of the cabin. You can see that ambient lighting coming into play with storage behind both of the front seats. They're also heated in the rear with the climate control USB ports, and the headroom is the same thing, except the door is going to have that carbon fiber with the yellow inlays. So we're starting off with the Modena with 325 horsepower. Now that is a decrease of over 200 horsepower to the Folgore. But the 0 to 60 is the reason why I was comparing these two trims, because one is 5 seconds, which is what we're in, the Modena, and 4 seconds is for the Folgore. You're paying an additional $10,000 to $20,000 when you go Folgore opposed to Modena. So is it going to be worth that upgrade in price, or should you maybe consider the Trofeo if you need more power, because that would be the fastest for the Grecale? Getting in and out of places is actually quite easy because it's not that wide or long of a vehicle. And let's see what we got. Pretty quick off the line. I mean, the torque to it is good. Maneuverability is great. I like that they have changed the violin for the turn signals and some of the charms, because ultimately last year and the year prior, it just felt old. Now it feels like playing Game Boy or something. It's pretty comfortable. We're riding on 21-inch upgraded wheels, and you have 8 inches of clearance, so it's pretty good there with large windows. It's going to take me to some pros and cons right off the bat. The pros is it's a pretty decent value as long as you don't tack on features, especially for a used car. You can get a great deal for these. The con is really the Trofeo is where it's at, and that's kind of where I'm looking at between these 3 trims. I know we don't have the Trofeo today, but we will bring that to the channel as soon as they get the 25 variants in. The exhaust note, it sounds like a 4-cylinder. There's nothing around that. Kind of has like a Volkswagen sound. I'm not a huge fan of that, but it is quick. I mean, this thing can get you a speeding ticket really fast, and you really don't know how fast you're going most of the time. It feels solid. Mashing on the brake, it doesn't feel heavy, but going back to the question, is it better than the Folgore? Because that is full electric. Power-wise, it should be a substantial difference in the drive. But it's also fully electric, which I'm not a huge fan of waiting so long to charge. Obviously, charging at home, it's not a big deal, but for me, I'm moving in and out. I don't know about you. I mean, let me know if you're an EV fan or a gas variant. Interior is basically the same. The major difference is you're getting the flex leather when you go to the Folgore, whereas you're getting real leather here. But then they put a leather wrap steering wheel on that. So it doesn't make too much sense why they would do that. Turn radius at a stop point. It's gonna get about 3 lanes. Let's rock and roll. You get the little spit that comes into play. 0.3 seconds quicker than the GT, which is why I am not so happy with the configuration and the pricing. They have increased this year in pricing. It does have a nice wow factor though, especially once you start hitting around 3 RPMs. Off the line, it's pretty good. Rolling start and then mash on the gas. It has a little bit of hesitation, but I mean, with a Turbo 4, I think overall it does good. Now the Folgore with 542 horsepower, and when you're putting that in content, that's 19 horsepower more than the Trofeo. 0 to 60 at 4 seconds, but it's going to be slower than the Trofeo in 0 to 60 in top speed. And comparing it against the Modena that we are comparing it to, 325 horsepower, I mean, it should be a night and day difference in drive. Quiet and settle, and let's give her a go. It's quick, very fast. Oh man, this thing is insane, the speed that you're getting out of it. I know it's just 4 seconds 0 to 60, but 605 pound-feet of torque makes you feel like it's a lot quicker than the numbers register. Night and day difference from the Modena. And if you're already at that $90-ish thousand price, you might as well look at the other two options. Taking me to some pros for the Folgore. Not only does it have the DNA whenever you mash the gas pedal, but it's still a smooth ride. You get the sounds that come in, so it sounds like it's a sports car, sort of. Throw it into GT, and you still have that unique exhaust note that filters in. Now you can take that sport sound off, but then it's a bit bland. So I would leave it on personally, so that way it feels a little bit more exciting whenever you are mashing on the gas pedal. And with these EVs, it's hard for me to ever really drive it into a normal or an eco mode. So we're gonna put it into max range just to see, and it does make the pedal feel a lot more heavy, but you can see or feel the regenerative braking a little bit more so. Definitely a pro if you're trying to get optimal MPGs, but then on the con, this should be faster than the Trofeo, because typically with EV vehicles, that's usually the case, and I would have liked to see that with the Grecale, because personally I like the Grecale a little bit better than the Levante's interior, not so much in the futuristic tech, but in the sense that it's not outdated, because the Levante is due for a refresh, whereas here you're getting everything more innovative. You will lose around 14-mile range whenever you are using sport opposed to the other driving modes. Turn radius is going to be the same, right at 3 lanes. Let's rock and roll. Oh my God. Braking though is not as airtight. That is definitely a big problem that I have. You can't stop on a dime at all. It just keeps going because the curb weight is a lot more so. That's why for me, I would go Trofeo. And when you're looking at spec to spec, not even driving the vehicles, which I have driven them, this is the least in class with performance. It does have the fun to drive, so I'm glad that they unlocked the DNA of a Maserati, especially for an EV. And if you're trying to just drive around town, I would just use it in max range, because realistically speaking, you have enough power from this vehicle. And if you mash on the gas all the time, you're going to be burning through some tires a lot quicker. You typically only get maybe 15,000 miles, more like 8 to 12,000 miles with the Maserati using the Pirellis. But with this type of performance, I would imagine maybe even less. Max range, I mean, I'm really having to mash on the gas. Putting it into GT livens it up where you kind of need to be, so that's more of that everyday drive, making it feel a lot more lightweight. Maneuverability is still good though. So if it's me picking between the two, I would definitely consider the Folgore, but I'm not a full electric guy, so that's why I would pick the Modena. But let me know your thoughts in the comments, and if you're new to the channel, consider subscribing. Check out the next video, merchandise, website, and Instagram. Leave a comment and a like, and I'd like to thank Maserati Tampa for giving us the comparison between the two 2025 Grecales, the Modena versus the Folgore, for our car comparison review.